Good morning, fourth graders. Today we are on page 249 of your student journal on Unit 11, lesson 5. And our plan today is just going to be to practice more of what we started yesterday of learning about the 5 quadrilaterals that you need to have memorized and understanding why each one has its name. So understanding the attributes or the rules that each one follows to earn that name. So our goal is, today I will classify quadrilaterals by lines and angles. Okay, so that is our plan today. And again, it's just going to be more practice of yesterday, but it's really going to take you taking the time to sit and kind of memorize all these rules, because you will not be allowed to use these when you actually take your test if you're going to be using integrity. Okay, so I'm going to jump right in and get started on my problems. Here is my first problem. What is the difference between a rectangle and a parallelogram? What is the same? Okay. So what is the difference? Well, I could do this maybe as a chart, or I could write it out. I might just do it as a chart here. So what is different? What is different? Well, I could say a rectangle has 4 right angles, and a parallelogram does not. That is one of our big differences. Okay, what is the same though? And maybe I'll come back to this, but what is the same? I'm going to put it up here. What is the same? They're both quadrilaterals, because to be a quadrilateral, all you need is 4 closed sides. They are both trapezoids, because to be a trapezoid, you only need at least one pair of parallel sides. This one has 2 and this one has 2, so they're both trapezoids. They are actually both parallelograms too, because to be a parallelogram, you need to have 2 pairs of parallel sides. So parallel, this is and this is parallel, this and this are parallel, this and this are parallel, and this and this. So they're both considered parallelograms. What about angles, we could say? This has 4 right angles and this doesn't, but couldn't we also say that they both have congruent opposite angles? What do I mean by that? Well, isn't that congruent to that? And isn't that congruent to that? And that's the same for here, that the opposite ones are congruent. So they had a lot of similarities. I really don't see any other differences. Oh, well, there's so many more similarities I could say, actually. Let's say they have, we could say they both have opposite sides congruent, which this and this are congruent, this and this are congruent, this and this are congruent, this and this are congruent. I could have even also said that they both have, opposite sides are parallel. There's so many things I could say that make them the same. Okay, let's look at my next problem. What is the relationship between a trapezoid and a rectangle? What is the relationship? How are those two similar, or what do they have in common? So I could say the relationship is, we could say a lot of things. I could say they are both quadrilaterals. We could say that they are both trapezoids, because this could be called the trapezoid because it follows the rules. What do they both have at least one pair of parallel sides. What else could I say? I think that's probably enough for that one. Okay, so let's try some together. I'm going to see if I can come up with any more of those before we go on, but I think that's probably good. Let's try ours. So here's our first one together. What is the difference between a rhombus and a trapezoid? How are they different? Okay, so when I did the differences, I didn't come up with that many. So how are they different? Well, let's see. We could say, let's say the rhombus has 4 congruent sides, and the trapezoid has none. How else are they different? I should have said the rhombus. I apologize, boys and girls. The rhombus has 2 pairs of parallel sides, but the trapezoid only has 1 pair. So I could say that. So those are ways that those are different. Okay, let's look at our next one. What is the shape? Well, I know right away. Hopefully you might know right away. It is a parallelogram. That's its best name. It's a parallelogram. Okay, why is it not a square? It is not a square for 2 reasons. It is not a square because it does not have 4 right angles. That's what a square has to have. And, let's put a comma there, and it does not have 4 congruent sides. That is why it's not a square. So you just need to really learn those attributes of what makes these shapes them. Okay, so today is the day that you have quite a bit to try. Have a nice afternoon, 4th graders.